One must admire the sheer audacity of the grift. Here was Donald Trump, that orange tribune of the forgotten American worker, genuflecting before Saudi royalty with all the enthusiasm of a medieval vassal kissing his lord's ring. In May 2025, Trump visited Saudi Arabia for the first state visit of his second term and was welcomed with elaborate pageantry, including a fighter jet escort, an honor guard with golden swords, and a fleet of Arabian horses accompanying his limousine. The man who promised to drain the swamp had instead transformed himself into its most enthusiastic bottom feeder, gorging on Saudi lucre while betraying every principle he claimed to hold dear. The prostitution of American foreign policy has rarely been so brazen or so pathetically transparent. At a campaign rally in 2015, Trump articulated the specific conflict that he denied on Tuesday morning. "Saudi Arabia, I get along with all of them," he said. "They buy apartments from me, they spend 40 million, 50 million, am I supposed to dislike them? I like them very much." Here was the confession, delivered with the shamelessness that only Trump could muster, a direct admission that his affections could be purchased, his policies auctioned to the highest bidder. The Saudi strategy for capturing Trump was embarrassingly simple. They bought him, not metaphorically, not through subtle influence, but through the direct transfer of millions upon millions of dollars into his personal coffers. Dar pumped more than $20 million into the Trump organization's coffers last year in licensing fees, financial disclosures show, including more than $15 million into a Delaware-based company called DT Marks KSA, an acronym for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The Saudis understood what everyone who has ever dealt with Trump knows. The man's principles are negotiable, his patriotism purchasable, and his loyalty flows exclusively toward whoever last filled his pockets. Consider the grotesque spectacle of Trump's hotels transformed into Saudi cash machines. Lobbyists representing the Saudi government reserved blocks of rooms at President Trump's Washington, D.C. hotel within a month of Trump's election in 2016, paying for an estimated 500 nights at the luxury hotel in just 3 months. In all, the lobbyists spent more than $270,000 to house 6 groups of visiting veterans at the Trump Hotel, which Trump still owns. A letter obtained by the Post from the general manager of the Trump International Hotel in Manhattan said, a last-minute visit to New York by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia had been a major factor in a 13% bump in revenue from room rentals for the first 3 months of 2018, after 2 years of declining figures. The veterans, those patriotic Americans who had served their country with honor, were unwittingly transformed into props in this sordid theater. Some of the veterans, according to the paper, didn't know they were staying in rooms paid for by the Saudis. The Saudi regime, which has never met a principle it wouldn't betray, or a dissident it wouldn't dismember, had discovered the perfect method for laundering bribes through Trump's properties. Book rooms, lots of rooms, at inflated prices, and watch as American foreign policy bent to accommodate their every whim. But the corruption runs deeper still, extending like a metastasizing cancer through Trump's entire clan. After Kushner left the White House, he started a private equity firm that received a reported $2 billion investment from the Sovereign Wealth Fund controlled by Prince Mohammed. Chairwoman Carolyn Maloney, DNY, wrote in a letter to Kushner that her committee is looking into the investment by the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Saudi Arabia, which is controlled by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. A panel that screens investments for the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund expressed concerns about Kushner's new private equity firm, Affinity Partners. They cited issues like the firm's inexperience, the possibility of the kingdom bearing most of the investment risk, unsatisfactory due diligence on the firm's operations, an excessive asset management fee, and public relations risks. The Saudi investment advisors themselves recognized the deal for what it was, not a sound financial decision but a payoff for services rendered. Yet Mohammed bin Salman, that reformist prince who reforms nothing except the methods by which he consolidates power, overruled his own advisors. Why? Because he had purchased not just hotel rooms but an entire American administration. The moral nadir of this squalid arrangement revealed itself in October 2018, when Jamal Khashoggi, a journalist whose only crime was speaking truth to power, walked into a Saudi consulate in Istanbul and never walked out. By November 2018, the US Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, had concluded that bin Salman had ordered the murder. The evidence was overwhelming, the conclusion inescapable, except apparently to Donald Trump. Watch the contemptible dance Trump performed to avoid acknowledging what everyone knew. Our intelligence agencies continue to assess all information, but it could very well be that the Crown Prince had knowledge of this tragic event. Maybe he did, and maybe he didn't, Trump said in the statement. Later Tuesday, Trump told reporters that the US relationship with Saudi Arabia and the fallout over Khashoggi's murder was a shame, but it is what it is. It is what it is. The moral philosophy of a man who had sold his conscience so thoroughly that he couldn't even pretend to possess one. Here was an American president shrugging off the state-sponsored murder of a US resident, a Washington Post columnist, as if it were a minor inconvenience, a small price to pay for maintaining the flow of Saudi gold into Trump properties. The Trump administration has not only given the Crown Prince a pass on the Khashoggi killing, but it has also worked assiduously to remove his pariah status and rehabilitate his global image. Trump became not merely Saudi Arabia's defender, but its public relations agent, its reputation launderer, working overtime to restore the shine to a blood-soaked crown. The tragedy compounds when one considers what Trump surrendered for his 30 pieces of silver, or rather his 30 million. I'm not going to destroy the world economy, and I'm not going to destroy the economy for our country by being foolish with Saudi Arabia, he said. After my heavily negotiated trip to Saudi Arabia last year, the kingdom agreed to spend and invest $450 billion in the United States. The great deal-maker had made his deal. American values, American credibility, American moral authority, all exchanged for weapons contracts and hotel bookings. Consider the perversity of Trump's America First rhetoric when viewed against this backdrop of corruption. It's a very simple equation for me. I'm about make America great again, and I'm about America first, Trump said. But whose America? Certainly not the America of democratic values, human rights, or press freedom. No, this was Trump's America, an America where foreign policy could be purchased by booking enough hotel rooms, where murder could be excused with sufficient investment promises, where the presidency itself became a subsidiary of Trump Organization, LLC. The Saudi regime, for its part, played Trump like a cheap violin. They understood that beneath the bluster, beneath the nationalism, beneath the tough guy posturing, lay a man whose deepest loyalty was to his own bank account. Before the May stop, Saudi Arabia promised to invest $600 billion in the United States. Earlier this week, Trump confirmed he plans to sell F-35s to Saudi Arabia as part of a weapons deal, which experts say would mark the first time those jets have been sold to an Arab military. Advanced fighter jets for a regime that uses its military to bomb Yemeni school buses, but the apartments are selling, the hotel rooms are booked, and the Trump Organization's coffers continue to swell. The most damning indictment comes from within Trump's own party. In the exact words of Republican Chris Christie, who I'll quote, "The grift from this family is breathtaking." When Chris Christie, a man whose own ethical flexibility has been well documented, finds your corruption breathtaking, you have achieved a special distinction in the annals of venality. What we witness here is not merely corruption, but the complete commodification of American foreign policy. Every principle that once guided American engagement with the world, democracy, human rights, press freedom, the rule of law, all sacrificed on the altar of Trump's greed. The Saudis didn't need to develop sophisticated intelligence operations or complex influence campaigns. They simply needed to write checks. The bitter irony is that Trump's supporters, those working-class Americans who believed they had found their champion, are the ultimate victims of this con. While they struggled with healthcare costs and stagnant wages, their president was collecting millions from a theocratic monarchy that stands against every value Americans claim to cherish. While they waited for the swamp to be drained, Trump was inviting the alligators to lease luxury suites. This week's state dinner for Mohammed bin Salman, complete with all the ceremonial trappings normally reserved for legitimate heads of state, represents the final debasement of American dignity. The man whose hands authorized Khashoggi's dismemberment shakes hands with an American president whose own hands are stained with Saudi gold. The normalization is complete. Murder has been forgiven, or rather, it has been priced and paid for. The damage extends beyond mere corruption. By demonstrating that American principles are for sale, Trump has undermined decades of diplomatic efforts to promote democracy and human rights worldwide. Every dissident languishing in a Saudi prison, every journalist who self-censors rather than risk dismemberment, every woman denied basic freedoms in the kingdom, all can trace their continued oppression partly to Trump's willingness to excuse any atrocity for the right price. The conclusion is inescapable. Trump's America first was always Trump first. The Saudi regime recognized this fundamental truth and exploited it brilliantly. They transformed the President of the United States into their most reliable servant, their most enthusiastic apologist, their most shameless propagandist. All it took was money for hotels, money for Kushner's fund, money for licensing deals. The price of American foreign policy turned out to be surprisingly affordable. As the fighter jets escort the Saudi prince and the golden swords gleam in the Washington sun, we might reflect on how thoroughly Trump has perverted the meaning of patriotism itself. For what is more unpatriotic than selling your country's values to foreign despots? What is more un-American than allowing murder to go unpunished because the murderer is a good customer? The Founding Fathers, in their wisdom, included the Emoluments Clause precisely to prevent this form of corruption. They understood that a leader whose fortune depends on foreign largesse cannot serve his nation's interests. Trump has proven them prescient. He has shown us what happens when the presidency becomes a profit center, when the Oval Office becomes a sales office, when America itself becomes a commodity to be traded for hotel bookings and licensing fees. And so the great confidence trick continues, with Trump playing the role of patriot while picking the pockets of American credibility. The Saudi princes must laugh at the ease of it all, how cheaply they purchased the world's superpower, how readily Trump abandoned every principle for their gold. They didn't defeat America, they simply bought it, one hotel room at a time.